You can begin.
Yes, ma'am.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tatho jayam udirayet shrunvatam swakadha krishna punyashravana kirtana hridyantasto hyabhadrani vidhunoti suhritsadam Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Nananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripatvamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dina Karanam Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 31, Verse 25 Parachandam na vidusa pushyamano janena sa anabhipretam apanna pratyakyatum anishwaraha Parachandam na vidusa pushyamano janena sa anabhipretam apanna pratyakyatum anishwaraha parachandam na vidusa pushyamano janena sa anabhipretam apanna pratyakyatum anishwaraha. Word meaning: Parachandam, the desire of another, na, not, vidusa, understanding, pushyamana, being maintained, janena, by persons, saha, he, anabhipretam, unto undesirable circumstances, apanna, fallen, pratyakyatum, to refuse, anishwaraha, unsafe, unable. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. After coming out of the abdomen, the child is given to the care of persons who are unable to understand what he wants, and thus he is nursed by such persons. Unable to refuse whatever is given to him, he falls into undesirable circumstances. Once again, after coming out of the abdomen, the child is given to the care of persons who are unable to understand what he wants, and thus he is nursed by such persons. Unable to refuse whatever is given to him, he falls into undesirable circumstances. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Within the abdomen of the mother, the nourishment of the child was being cared on by nature's own arrangement. The atmosphere within the abdomen was not at all pleasing. But as far as the child's feeding was concerned, it was being properly done by the laws of nature. But upon coming out of the abdomen, the child falls into a different atmosphere. He wants to eat one thing, but something else is given to him because no one knows his actual demand, and he cannot refuse the undesirables given to him. Sometimes the child cries for the mother's breast, but because the nurse thinks that it is due to pain within his stomach that he is crying, she supplies him with bitter medicine. The child does not want it, but he cannot refuse it. He is put in a very awkward circumstances. and suffering continues. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, this chapter is titled Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of the living entities. The movements of the living entities. The title is very meaningful and very insightful, and it is indicative of the journey of the living entity from the embryonic state to being born into this world with great difficulty. And it doesn't stop there. The title meaning, the title really uh, is indicating the movement of the living entity even beyond this lifetime, even not only for embryonic development, but even after birth, growing through childhood to youth to adulthood, how one can get trapped in this cycle of birth and death due to bad association and sinful activities. So, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that in the mother's womb, by nature's own arrangement, the child is nurtured by the laws of nature. The child does not need to say what it needs, and the mother's body is providing what the child needs. And that is the nature's own arrangement. But once he takes birth, even if the child has the most loving parents, or even if the child has a very good caregivers, it has none of them, whether it is a parent or even a caregiver, have no idea what the child is crying for. And so the child is put in a very awkward circumstance. That's what Srila Prabhupada is writing. And he has no control over how his needs will be taken care of. He may be wanting something and he will be provided with something which he does not need. And so sometimes, in spite of all of that, somehow or other, the child grows and becomes an adult. And even after one becomes an adult and one has the ability to communicate, one has the ability to discriminate, still, because of some bad association and sinful activities, the spirit soul continue to get entangled in this material creation or material atmosphere. And at the time of death, it's the beginning of another life, and the journey continues. And that there is another journey awaiting the poor living entity. And therefore, this title, Movements of the Living Entities, it is not only just about birth, that it is even beyond its lifetime. It continues forever. So it is a journey of many lifetimes. In this lifetime itself, the description is quite graphic, and it is a journey of many lifetimes. So death is simply simply it is an end of a reaction, and birth is the beginning of a reaction. And the beginning of that reaction, we are fully responsible for what that life is going to look like, depending upon how we live our life in this lifetime. And so the description in this particular chapter simply makes any thoughtful person, anyone who is thinking and introspecting, um, the description is enough to make a person think about a solution to this most serious problem of life. In the previous chapter, there was this complete description of a materialistic person and how at the end of his life and even beyond afterlife, the death and the sufferings that he undergoes, that is described in the previous chapter. And in this chapter, once again, starting from embryonic development till death is described, along with the along with some very insightful facts, such as why there is a definite need to stay away from bad association. It's emphasized here. Even Lord Brahma's example is given. And so there is no two way about this. There is a clear cut understanding. Kapila Dev is giving really very graphic presentation of um, one whole chapter on the life of the materialistic person, another whole chapter about the living entities beginning of life in this material world, in from the embryonic state through the whole description of what um, the child has to go through to become an adult. And then there is also the warning why bad association need to be avoided. So that makes any intelligent person wanting to find a solution. So when reading this whole chapter, it's not only the feeling that we get is not only uh, it's a real fact that is described about all the inconvenience that the living entity has to go through, but it makes you think, if you are intelligent, that we need to find a solution to put an end to this never ending, endless wanderings forever. Um, Therefore, what is it what an intelligent person should do? It is to live with a proper vision, proper reason for living, and detachment from all that is material, and developing pure devotion to Krishna. And there are so many different methods of spiritual practices, and I'm sure in various contexts, so much discussion we might or devotees must have given as to the unique significance of the practice of devotional service to Krishna. So, bringing us to this solution to this greatest problem and performing the bhajana kriya with full attention and focus. And that is the purpose of studying all these things. And not falling prey to so many deviations or so many distractions that come our way. And that is our ongoing problem in the life. And anything that takes one away from the devotional path need to be avoided. And one has to bring back one's full attention to pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. That is the sacred path of devotion. And so, eh, everything that we have learned over the years teaches us that the bhakti is the best spiritual path. And realizing the Supreme Lord Krishna is the ultimate realization in the absolute, he is the absolute truth. And the power of Krishna's holy name and the benefit of chanting with proper attention. So, even the lowest living entity can be elevated to the highest spiritual platform simply by this practice. And that is the ultimate message one can dwell upon all the details that are given as to in this chapter or in the previous chapter to educate oneself the problems of being born into this world and getting distracted in many directions. One can think about that. However, the lesson to be learned is how to apply that in this lifetime before our life comes to an end. So I'm stopping it right here. Mm, I have I'm sure so many devotees have spoken on this topic already. I'm stopping it quick here because I have another call coming around 8 o'clock also, and I feel like everybody must have understood this chapter by now. We are almost on verse 25, and instead of taking up too much of your time, I just wanted to keep it very short today. If anyone wants to comment or add something to what I said, you are most welcome to do so. Hare Krishna, Lakshmi Kanda Prabhu, looks like we can stop here.
Wait for a few seconds, Mataji, or anyone has comments?
I can wait a couple of. Anybody wants to add anything or say something? Doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
Everybody understood. Yeah. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.